Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. A recorded version of this webinar will be available on Navkara's YouTube channel. We'd love to hear from you, and if you have any questions, please write them in the chat and I'll get back to you at the end of the webinar. This webinar is brought to you by Navkara Consulting. Let me introduce myself. Shanmukhi is passionate about blockchain technology and has been gaining expertise in this field continually. She has co-authored 3 papers that focuses on different use cases of blockchain and is also a joint inventor of the patent in the same field. No part of these materials should be reproduced or published in any form by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopy or any information storage or retrieval system. About Navkara. Navkara is a leading global consulting company that is specialized in digital transformation. We serve clients across a spectrum of industries, including healthcare, public, federal, and commercial sectors. As per today's agenda, we'd be discussing the following: introduction to the supply chains, challenges faced in the supply chains, solution to these challenges, and then we'd conclude with a short Q&A session. So, introduction to supply chains. A supply chain is the network of all the individuals, organizations, resources, activities, and technology involved in the creation and sale of a product. A supply chain encompasses everything from the delivery of source materials from the supplier to the manufacturer to its eventual delivery to the end user. In its simplest form, the stages in a supply chain are as follows: procurement, logistics, operations, and services. A supply chain can take on the form of a product-based supply chain or that of a service, where services come together to offer an overall customer service as opposed to a finished product. An example of this would be the shipping of customer goods, staff, supply of vessel, and fuel are all required to provide the shipping service to the consumer. Let's look at the challenges faced in the supply chains. There are many challenges faced in the supply chains of different industries, but we are going to discuss the challenges that can be solved from a technical point of view. So let's begin with the first challenge: complexity. Complexity due to multiple channels in the market. Consumers buy products across multiple channels, and as routes to market increase, the underlying supply chain becomes more and more complex. The products change multiple hands before the actual buyer receives the respective product. Unable to meet customer demands due to lack of speed. Every touch point with an end user needs to be focused on providing excellent products and services. Quality and speed are becoming as important as pricing when it comes to purchasing goods. Consumers expect retail goods immediately and online goods within a few days. This delivery rate can be further improvised if the supply chain becomes simpler. Then we have lack of coordination between participants. Suppliers, manufacturers, logistics, clients, and customers are spread across multiple countries, time zones, and continents. In this scenario, the coordination between different participants becomes difficult. Lack of transparency. The supply chain, the supply chains these days have become so complex that if anyone tries to look at the overview or retrace a product back to its point of origin, it is extremely difficult. The increasing number of third parties involving in these processes makes it hard to keep track of how many hands the product has changed. Hands on paper. And yes, think about the amount of paperwork involved in the entire process. Lastly, we have high risk of fraud or counterfeit. Since all the agreements, invoices, receipts, etc., are in the paper form and the trust is based on humans, there's a higher risk of fraud in the supply chain. The chances of counterfeiting the products is also too high, and the current system makes it hard to find the source. Irrespective of the industry, this is a big problem. I say so because it is easy for anyone to alter the product before it is delivered to the customer or replace a raw material with a lower quality material before it is even delivered to the manufacturer and produce a false paper trail, etc. Blockchain technology. Blockchain is a list of records called blocks that store data publicly and in chronological order. All the blocks are connected with the help of the cryptographically calculated hash such that a chain of blocks is formed. Each time a new block is mined, it is concatenated to the most recent block in the chain. The information is encrypted using the cryptography to ensure that the privacy of the user is not compromised and data cannot be altered. There are three main categories of blockchain. They are public blockchain, private blockchain, and consortium blockchain. Public blockchains are permissionless, meaning anyone with access to the internet can sign in on a blockchain platform to become an authorized node and be a part of the network. Private blockchains are permissioned, meaning only those who have the permission can become a part of the blockchain network. Consortium blockchains. These are semi decentralized or more like a combination of the public and private blockchains. Now let's look at some characteristics and features of blockchain. Decentralized. Records are not maintained by a single authority. Immutable. This means that the records saved on the blockchain cannot be removed or altered once entered. Then we have distributed. This means that the records on the blockchain are publicly accessible to everyone in the network. Then we have security. Blockchain offers high-end security due to the cryptographic principles used. And then we have no intermediaries. Blockchain builds trust between the participants without including the third parties with the help of smart contracts. Now let's take an example scenario here. Say all the people attending this webinar belong to a blockchain network. Let's assume two of the participants' names to be Alex and Bob. If Alex wants to transfer $100 to Bob, then he can do so without requiring anybody's permission, that is, as long as Alex has that amount in his wallet. Now, once this transaction is made and verified, this transaction is saved on a ledger that includes all the transactions made in this network, and a copy of this ledger is saved on every participant system. This feature refers to decentralized and distributed. Now, if Alex tries to do some mischief by trying to modify the transaction in such a way that Alex transferred $200 to Bob instead of $100, he will not be able to do so. This feature is called immutability. And if you notice here, when Alex sent the money to Bob, he did it directly through the network instead of going through any third parties like banks, etc. This is where blockchain removes the intermediation with the help of smart contracts. Now, before we look into the solution, let's look at a few scenarios. Every scenario will have a few participants and one or more assets. An asset is anything that can be used to produce positive economic value. The first scenario. Now, if we consider the food supply chain in the food industry, the main participants involved here are the farmer, the wholesaler, and the customer. There are many more participants involved, but let's just keep it simple here for the sake of understanding. The asset in this scenario is the product that was produced by the farmers. Now, the produce can have many parameters. For example, the produce ID, the product name, the farmer's name, the land in which it was produced, the fertilizers used, etc. Now, these are all the parameters of the asset or the product in this scenario. Now, one of the main challenges faced here is the lack of traceability of the produce. For example, many people are preferring organic product produced these days. Now, if we look at the costs of regular products and the costs of organic produce, there's a lot of difference in the costs. Organic produce is more expensive when compared to regular produce. Now, the customer would want to be sure that the product he is buying is genuinely organic as he wants the value for the money being spent. But unfortunately, as per the current system, the customer would have to blindly believe the sticker or the label on the produce or on the product that he or she is buying as as he has no other way to verify the authenticity of the produce. Let's look at scenario 2. Now, if we consider the diamond supply chain in the jewelry industry, the participants can be divided into the suppliers and manufacturers, the stores, and the customer. When I'm referring to suppliers and manufacturers, I'm referring to all the people who play a role in the process of producing ready to sell diamonds, that is, from mining, polishing, etc., to generating the final output. The asset in this scenario is the diamonds. The diamond can have many parameters. For example, the diamond ID, the diamond cut, its size, its color, the land in which it was mined, who certified it, etc. Now, these are all the parameters of the asset, which in this scenario is the diamond. One of the main challenges faced here is the lack of the customer's ability to find its authenticity. For example, if one of us goes to a jewelry store to purchase a diamond, we have no choice but to look at its certification and believe whatever it says. There's no way for us to verify the details or the point of origin of the demand. I hope this gives you a gist of the challenges that we have discussed so far. Now let's move on to the solution. The solution proposed here would give rise to three main actions irrespective of the scenario. The first one is asset creation. This action would require the first participant in the network, as in the first person from where the process begins, to create an asset. For example, according to the first scenario, in the food supply chain, the farmer would be the first person to create an asset. The second action is asset transfer. This action would take place when the current owner of an asset would like to transfer this asset to another person. For example, according to the first scenario in the food supply chain, the farmer can transfer the asset that he owns to the wholesaler. The wholesaler can then transfer this asset to the distributor and so on. The third action is asset details. In this action, the customer can use the asset details to look at the flow of ownership of the asset. For example, according to the first scenario in the food supply chain, or in the second scenario, the diamond supply chain, the customer can look at all the previous ownerships of that asset in the form of transactions up to its point of origin. Now, we have talked about smart contracts in the previous webinar, but just to recap, smart contracts are programs stored on a blockchain that run when predetermined conditions are met. They are used to automate the execution of an agreement so that all participants can immediately be certain of the outcome without any intermediaries' involvement or time loss. If we speak in a generalized manner, the smart contract for the supply chains will probably have three functions. The first one being create asset. The smart contract makes sure that only the first participant in the respective chain or network can initiate or run this function. In this function, the participant will be allowed to fill in the parameters of the asset as discussed and create the asset, making him the first owner of the asset. Then we have transfer asset. The smart contract here makes sure that only the current owner of the selected asset can initiate or run this function. In this function, the owner can enter the details of the asset that he wants to transfer and the details of the participant who will be receiving this asset. After the transaction is completed, the asset's owner would be updated. Lastly, we have asset details. The smart contract makes sure that the customers can initiate or run this function. In this function, the customer can enter the details of the asset and have a look at all the previous transactions. As in, the customer can retrace all the transactions to verify the asset's point of origin and authenticity. Now, before we move on, I would like to show you a small demo. So here, let me log in on behalf of the farmer. Okay, so now that we have logged in as a farmer, if you can look around, we have we have an option for creating an asset. And here down below, we have a table that displays the list of asset names, creator names, the current owner names, the date of creation, and action. Now, what is happening here is this is the list of all the asset names that was created by this specific farmer. And if and only if the owner and the creator are the same, they are allowed to transfer. Else, they are not allowed to transfer because they are no longer the current owner of the specific asset. Now, for example, if the farmer here wants to add an asset, let's see how that works. Let me just log in here. Great. So let's just put in a trial asset name, a sample asset name. So for example, if the new asset here is say a batch of apricots. Now the creator and the owner at this point would be the same person who's the farmer. Now once we do this, MetaMask will ask us to confirm this with the help of some gas price. Now I'm increasing the gas price here so that the transaction finishes quickly. Once I click on confirm, MetaMask will take a few seconds to verify everything. Okay. If we can take a look here, this is the interface of MetaMask. So here we have the balance of the test ether that's remaining. And if you take a look here, we have a pending transaction here, that is the contract interaction. Now the transaction has been confirmed. So here it displays that transaction to confirm. So that's done. And once we click on OK, we'll be redirected to the dashboard where we can see that apricots has been created and we have the creator name and the owner name as the farmer who has just created it, the date and transfer since he is the current owner of it. We can even drop back to MetaMask to look at the transaction. So over here, the contract has been successfully confirmed. Now, once we have here, let's take a look at how the interface is for the wholesaler. So these are the wholesaler's details. Let me log in. Right. So as of now, the wholesaler is not the owner of any asset. So hence we are saying no assets created or owned. But if we go back to the farmer screen, and if I click on transfer for apricots, now we have the asset name set here and we have the sender name set here. So if we enter the email of the receiver, who is the wholesaler, okay, so once I click on transfer, MetaMask will again ask me to confirm it and then enter a gas price. So again, let me just increase it for a faster transaction. Right. So once I click on confirm, again it will try to verify all the details. It will just take a few seconds. Yeah, so we can look here, we can look at the queue here, it is still pending. Yeah, so that has been confirmed, that's great. So let's close it up, and once we've seen here that the asset has been transferred, so the moment we click on OK, now look at here, we have apricots, but the action is cannot transfer because you're no longer the owner of it. The farmer is no longer the owner of it. We have the wholesaler who's the owner of it. Now, if we take a look at the transactions made by this farmer, we can see here that apricots has been sent by the farmer and the receiver is the wholesaler and so date. So great. Now let's take a look at the screen for the wholesaler. Let me just refresh. Great. So now this the current owner of this specific asset, which is the apricots, is the wholesaler, and hence the asset is being displayed here, and we're able to click on transfer because the wholesaler is the current owner. So before I do that, let's take a look at the customer's interface as well. Right, so now that I've logged in, the customer can here view a list of all the assets that are available, including who created it and who's the current owner. So since we just created apricots, yeah, here we have apricots. So the person who created it was the farmer and the current owner is the wholesaler. Great, so now we have this visible here. So and also here there's a button where we can view the list of assets that are currently possessed by this specific customer. So great. So Apples 2 was purchased by this customer on 4th. So if we click on this specific asset, we can take a look at all the previous transactions. So here, if we look at here, the very first transaction was made by the farmer to the wholesaler, and then the wholesaler has transferred this to the customer. So if you look at this, in this scenario, we only use 3 participants, so it's looking quite simple. But in general, imagine all the participants involved. So then you would have like a list of transactions here for every single asset. Now, in this way, it is easy for anybody to just backtrack, like from the current owner, you could easily backtrack to who sent this and then who received here and then who sent here. So it's easily, you can easily backtrack to the point of origin. So that, and then yeah, there's another transactions option here. So this is where this customer has received this apples, which was a previous asset. But now let's look at the transaction process for apricots, which was what we had created over here, apricots. So for this to be transferred, we need to head back to the wholesaler's interface. So yeah, this is the wholesaler's interface, and let me go for another transfer. But this time we'll be transferring to just a minute. I'm so sorry, let me just try to log in on the other website, the browser. So let's transfer here. Right. So let me now transfer to the customer. Once again, MetaMask will give me a prompt and I'll increase the gas price for a faster transaction. And the reason it failed in the previous browser was because of the settings in the browser. I think I also forgot to change those, but it will work in this browser. This is Chrome. Here we go. We can still see that this contract is still pending. This special transaction is still pending. Let's just give it a few more seconds. It should be done anytime now. Okay, not an issue. Yeah, okay, it's done here. Let's get it. It's done. So the moment I click here, Now, since this wholesaler is no longer the owner of any more assets, this is how it's going to be displayed. Now, let's head back to the customer. And once we click on view, there we go. We see apricots, and the creator was the farmer, and the current owner is the customer. So this is a small demo of how using blockchain things could be made simplified, and it's easy to trace the point of origin. So that's great. So this was a small demo of the solution. Let's head back to our presentation. Right. So the benefits of this solution. Let's talk about a few benefits of the solution. For starters, it provides increased traceability of the assets or products. It enables an end-to-end tracking system in the supply chain. The physical assets are digitized, and there is a decentralized, immutable record of all transactions, making it possible to track assets from production to delivery or use by end user. Then we have lower losses from counterfeits. Since the records are tamper-proof, no one would take the risk of counterfeiting an asset, as it is highly impossible and easily traceable. Then we have reduced paperwork. Blockchain provides all the parties within a supply chain network with access to the same information, therefore reducing communication and transferring data errors. Less time can be spent on validating data, and more time can be spent on delivering goods and services, thereby improving quality, reducing cost, etc. And then we have increased trust and transparency. As discussed above, the characteristics of the blockchain provide transparency and introduce trust between the participants involved in the supply chain network. Let's summarize what we have discussed so far. We began with a discussion on what supply chains are and a few common steps involved in a supply chain. Then we went on to discuss a few challenges faced by the organizations and customers in the supply chains. We had a recap on blockchain technology, followed by two different scenarios of a supply chain. Then we discussed how to design a decentralized system for overcoming the challenges faced in the supply chains, followed by the benefits of its solution. Now, before we move to the Q&A session, there's one more small thing that I would like to cover here. So let me just refresh here. So this is the website Etherscan, and on the test network Ropsten, the one that I had used in MetaMask. So here we have a list of all the transactions that we have done so far. So it starts with the basic transaction, which was the contract creation, as in the smart contract that I had used in the execution of this demo that we had seen. So the very first transaction was the creation of the contract, and from then on, whichever transaction has been occurred, it has been displayed here. So for example, this specific transaction that was made 10 minutes ago is the create asset, wherein we created the apricot asset. And then here we have the first transfer. Now this transfer was the one where we had the farmer transfer the asset to the wholesaler. And then the most latest transaction that was occurred 3 minutes ago, that was nothing but the transaction that was between the wholesaler and the customer. So I just wanted to show you this so that this is how the block has all the transactions. So this is the list of all the transactions that have occurred in this contract. Okay, so now that we have covered this, now I'd like to move on to the Q&A session. So if anybody has any questions, please post it in the chat box. Okay, so what is the purpose of high gas fee? Do you have to do that for every transaction? So basically what happens here is every transaction has a minimal amount of gas fee. So the higher the gas fee, the faster the chances of, the more the chances of your transaction getting mined fast. Because whenever there's a transaction that takes place, once you complete a transaction from your end, there are participants known as miners in every blockchain. So these miners will use or take the gas fee that you've given as their reward, and they will try to verify the transaction. So when the miners have a huge lot of transactions that need to be verified, by default, they would end up giving more preference to the transaction that would help them earn more. So in this scenario, I just didn't want to waste a lot of time, and hence I increased the gas transaction, like the gas fee for each transaction, so that the transaction would be completed faster. But there's no issue because whatever I've used here, whatever ether I've used here, it's the test ether and not the actual ether. So it doesn't really cost me the real money. So that was the whole purpose of increasing the gas fee. But otherwise, if your priority is not the speed of the transaction, but just for it to be completed, then you can go with the normal gas fee that is displayed like whenever the MetaMask prompts you to make the transaction. So, okay, thank you. And if there are any further questions, then they can be redirected to the email here, contact us at navkara.com. Yeah, thank you.